Hello and welcome. I am Stacey Thomas, author, ALS advocate, film producer, and talk show host. I'm here to motivate, educate, and entertain. Join me on YouTube every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Stacey Thomas Talk Show, where we have powerful discussions centered around health, relationship, careers, and everyday conversation. Follow me on Facebook, I am Stacey Thomas. On Instagram, Stacey Thomas Talk Show. And don't forget, I can promote you too. Email me at iamstaceythomas@gmail.com. Now, it's time for the show. Hello, everyone. Thank you for all who will watch this show today. I am Stacey Thomas, unrestricted, unlimited. Why? It simply means I've seen what God has done for me. I see what he's doing for me, but I have yet to see all that he has for me, right? Once again, we're bringing somebody on the show that's blessing other people, which is something I love, right? And something came to me today to let you know, for the new people that come on and watch me. I am Stacey Thomas. I am not bringing you a summary. I'm not interested in a summary. If I want a summary, I'll Google it or read a synopsis on the back of the book. I'm after the story, and tonight we've got a powerful story with our guest, Miss Janell. Hello.
Good evening.
How are you, beautiful?
I am doing good.
You're doing good?
Good. Yes.
That's great. Thank you for being a guest on my show. I appreciate you saying yes and coming on.
No problem.
And,
no worries.
And I've got to give a huge shout out to Dr. Cassandra Conover. She's been on my show. It's 2 times. Blame it on my heart and not blame it on my head and not my heart. It may be 3 times. But one thing she's done, she's not only blessed my platform, but she's connected people or connected me to people. And for you, I went to Dr. Cassandra for one thing, and I told you earlier, but because Dr. Cassandra knows me, I realized there was more. She was giving me more and a guess than what I was looking for. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
I love me some Dr. Cassandra. I want to start off with, my first thought was she's the Democratic Party chair of Petersburg, Virginia. That's the story I want, because I need others to understand what's going on and why we need to vote. But then you sent me your bio, and then I have a tendency to look at pages. I have a tendency to research people, even though I know I'm going to get the real story from them. You are a story that, the one thing that comes to my mind is, we go through things, and what the devil means for good, God will show up and turn it around. I'm sorry, that was wrong. What the devil means for bad, God will show up, turn it around, and make all good. You, young lady, have a story, and it's similar to, and not to make it about me, but it's stories like yours that gives me hope and helps me not to give up on my son. You have a past that involved drugs, which is something that is affecting our young people today.
Oh, yeah.
My question to you is, drugs are powerful. How in the world did you defeat that addiction and become who you are today?
I think, and I know, I was always destined to be this person. I really do. I truly believe I was always destined to be this person. But life kept lifing. Mm-hmm. And when I was young, I did not have the tools or the knowledge or the network to help me to navigate that thing called life. You know, because back then in the 70s and the 80s, you didn't talk. There was no social media to make a post about what's going on with yourself, how things impact you, and to get information or to get validation or to get any information to help you get through it. You had to suffer in silence. And back then, when you were suffering in silence, you used whatever you could use to try to make you to change how you felt. And what I used was drugs. I changed, trying to change all the things that people had said to me about me, people I love. And I couldn't get their voices out of my head. And only time that I could feel different is when I took a drink or a drug. And
So,
then I used it all the time to try to drown out those voices, that it
mhm.
just became necessary and for me to do it every day.
So what was it? What was it that one day you decided no more? What made you just say no more?
I had burnt all my bridges. I had lost my children, and then one day I looked at myself and I said, "This is not who I was supposed to be." I even when I was using, I would still go to the Bible. I had a great foundation, raised up in the church. But even though I was raised up in the church, I had the God that they taught me, not the God that I have today. See, today I have a relationship with God. Before, I felt that I had to be just submissive and obedient. It was hell and brimstone. If I made a mistake, there was no forgiveness. Um, it seemed like so today I know I was being raised in the Old Testament, right? If you
Right.
want to be biblical,
Okay, okay.
and today I live in the New Testament where there is forgiveness, where there is, I can communicate with him and we can have a conversation, and then I can sit down and see. Before I couldn't sit still to wait to listen. Today I wait to listen and to hear his voice. So it was a totally different way of living back then than it is today. And then came with maturity, as I got older and I started looking back because I thought he left me,
Wow.
you know, I
Wow.
thought he left me. I thought he just abandoned me along with other people. And so I had so many abandonment issues.
Mhm.
And I thought he left me because all these things were happening that I had no control over. Some that I did cause to myself, but a lot I didn't. And then I had to learn also that some of this stuff was not my fault.
Right. Things happen and we don't always bring everything on ourselves. Wow. And it's amazing when you realize, and some people are almost afraid to think differently. You said you were raised one way and then you realize that God is a forgiving God. There's some people that want to believe that, but because it was instilled in them so deeply, I believe that's what keeps people stuck sometimes, because they won't go to, hey, God is a loving God. I'm not listening to you and I know he'll forgive me. So it's great that you recognize that. It is. You made a comment. This is what I read in the bio. You made a comment to someone about if you hit the lottery, you were going to do something for at-risk girls. You did not hit the lottery, but then that's when the vision came to you.
Yeah, yes, I can. It was, and I to be honest, I was running from it because I didn't like kids like that. I didn't like kids like that. And then, and to find myself working with kids with bad attitudes and all like that. And I'm like,
That's what I was going to say. This nonprofit you have is doing awesome things for young people. What made you start to like them? Did you just realize God won't take a no for an answer or something?
I was like looking in the mirror.
Wow.
I saw me.
You saw you.
Hmm. With all the pain and the inability to communicate how you feel. And so it comes out in your behavior. I deal with adults like that now, that
Yeah.
are unable to talk. unable to express, communicate, and if we don't address the children now, they grow up to be adults who are non-communicators and who will act versus talk things through.
Wow. And that same statement about the lottery and then receiving a vision, I gotta say this. So when I read it, and I read it over again, and I'm like, isn't it amazing how we say if this happens, if that happens. And when it doesn't happen, some people would give up. And when it didn't happen for you realize it wasn't going to take the lottery for you to do what it was God wanted you to do, huh?
I still hit the lottery just in a different way.
Okay, okay.
I hit the lottery with a mentor. I hit the lottery with my network, Sisters in Service. I hit
Wow.
the lottery with my board members. I hit the lottery with my community partners. I hit the lottery in so many different ways that it wasn't about a paycheck. You know, it was about every step of the way. And the reason why I think, no, the reason why I know I did it is that every time it was an obstacle, God sent somebody to help me to address that obstacle. And it was just no way that I could deny that this wasn't his work.
Wow. And because I am an advocate myself, and I've run into people that say they want to help people. I've run into people that have nonprofits, and I've been disappointed in those people or by those people because I find, and I was going to ask you this question, but I saw it in your bio. Is this nonprofit that you've created a business for you, or is it that you have a passion for it?
It's both.
Both, both. And Hebron is the name.
Hebron, yes, it came from the Bible.
So I can say all day long what I read about Hebron. The only thing I want you to tell us what Hebron is. The only thing I know is I did not hear about Hebron until maybe a year ago. Once again, Dr. Cassandra said you were having an event that I should attend. I had something else on the calendar, and I did. I asked a couple people. I said, "Who is Hebron in Petersburg?" Somebody said, "I don't know." I asked somebody else. Oh, they didn't know, right? So tell us, because we've been missing out on something. What is Hebron?
Hebron is a nonprofit organization for young ladies.
Okay.
We have been currently for the last 10 years working with young ladies in the middle school in Petersburg Public Schools. Um, in reference to that, through our work and through our community, we realize that the girls are more impacted by community violence. So if someone is murdered, which is normally a man, it's their uncle, their daddy, their brother, their cousin, a schoolmate, and they are impacted the most because of their nurturing um, attribute in them. So when we realized that through research, we said that we need to include boys when school is not in session. So summer, during our New Year's Day speeding, and then spring break. But any other time when school is in session, it's all about the girls. And
So
yeah,
I'm sorry. So girls during the summer,
no, girls
no,
during
girls during the school year, boys through the summer. Are you seeing
boys
the
when school is not in session.
when school is not in session? Are you seeing the girls at all when school is not in session?
We do them in summer too.
You do those summer too?
No, we just add the boys to the
You add
girls.
the boys.
Hmm.
Okay. It seems the program you have
Hmm.
and the age group you're doing is I think a great thing, because I often wondered when people say we need to change this, we need to change that. And I've been one, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, you know what, you can teach the children all you want, but they got to go home, and that's what they pick up on. But then what you're doing made me think of this. You doing this with the young girls, eventually we're going to have better mothers. eventually we're going to have mothers that are teaching their kids what Hebron taught them.
What about we have mothers now? You know, so with our girls, we reach out to them before every session.
Okay.
Our program administrator, she reaches out to them via email. If
Okay.
they don't respond via email, then they get a text. If they don't respond to the email or the text, then they get a call. And we do this all year long. So what we do is we start building relationships with the moms. And so then
Okay.
when we build the relationships with the mother, we're already doing the work with the
Wow.
moms. So it's not, oh, we're just focusing on the daughter or the child. We focus on the family as a whole.
Wow. Love it. Love it. Was it hard building because you have a passion for what you're doing? Was it hard building a team?
Yes.
It was. What was the hardest thing for you as you brought this vision to life as far and had to build a team? What was the hardest?
Familiarity. Because my goal was that we get grant dollars, right?
Okay.
And that if someone is in the community that provides a service to us that we need,
Okay.
we want to be able to keep those dollars in the community.
Okay.
So we wanted to circulate in the community. So that is the whole gist of it. And then when dollars are flowing through the community, it makes the economic, make
Mhm.
us an economic better locality. Our
Right.
locality becomes a better economic space.
Right.
Um, and then when you have a better economy, everyone benefits, right? Because
Right.
then nobody got to
Right.
steal, nobody
Right.
hit you over the head, nobody
Right.
got to do that because everybody eating, right?
Right.
And so, however, when people are so familiar with each other, there is a level of professionalism that's not always there.
Right.
And so then, and then it makes it hard sometimes for me to bring correction because I know you and we got a relationship, but I'm not getting the service that I'm paying for, and then someone could say, well, oh, Janell, I'm going through this, and because we're familiar, I understand. And so sometimes I have to, and what our pastor would tell me is that I have to be uncomfortable sometimes with
Right.
the unknown
Right.
and then that allows me to stretch and get outside of my comfort zone and meet new people to be able to provide the service. And when there's not that much familiarity, they know that they could get cut quick
Right.
because I don't have no allegiance to you.
Right. I have a sister. If she's watching this, she's gonna get mad at me. But in the process of me planning to open my nonprofit one day, I told my sister she wasn't gonna be on the board, and
Mm-hmm.
she got mad at me. And in all honesty, and I told her she would be absolutely the best person for the position
Mm-hmm.
based on the person she is, the passion she has for the fight that I'm fighting. She would be the best person. But we have one problem. She's bossy. She would forget that this is my vision. So sometimes, and I love her, but sometimes we have to go with strangers to start that business relationship as much as we'd love to bring the people we love in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
With
And
that,
I'm learning, they said those hard won experiences. And I've been going through a transition like that lately. And the thing about it is, um, when business relationships end, if you're not friends, there's no love lost.
right,
You know what I'm saying? But
right,
when business relationships end with people that you have built relationships with or friendships with, or you already knew them, there's a it's very uncomfortable. and it can breed contention, and you don't want that on top of all the other things you're going through. So, you know, sometimes we just have to go that route, even though we want to. I want to look out. I do.
Right.
But if you want a good reputation in the community, then you have to. Now, let me be the first to say I don't always do everything right. I don't,
Okay.
But what I do is I acknowledge my wrong. I don't have a problem saying my bad, and how can we fix it?
Okay.
But everyone doesn't have that ability to do that.
Okay.
And that's hard when you're doing business, when people don't take accountability.
Yes, ma'am. And before we take a commercial break and we move on to this next awesome thing you're doing, um, do people need to help you? Or some people assume when someone has a nonprofit, they don't need my help. They're getting grants. And we're in a time now that people are trying to take away those grants. Do you need help from people or are you okay?
Of course, we need help from people. Even when grants was flowing, that doesn't mean that we received a grant.
Right.
It just means grants were out there. Now, other organizations may receive grants, and if they get it, we have to find a way to applaud them and celebrate them. We can't get mad because we got rejected. Now, rejection is not easy. I get
Right.
it. It is
Right.
really not easy. But we can't go out here flipping tables and not, and moving furniture because I got rejected. That means I just have to go in a different direction. And I've gotten rejected a lot of times, but what I do is I go back into prayer and I say, Lord, you led me down this way. I'm going to have to get you going to have to make a way.
I know that's right.
And I have found myself saying that a lot lately.
Yes, ma'am. And we have on the screen where they can donate to, or I guess if they need to contact you, we have your website up. Is
Mhm.
there any other way that you want people to reach out to you?
You can inbox me on Facebook. You inbox us on Instagram. You can inbox me on LinkedIn and our website. Now it has our phone number as well.
Okay, okay. And who are you on Facebook?
Hebron VA Inc. Hebron VA like Virginia
Yes, ma'am.
Inc. as incorporated.
Okay, okay. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Want to be heard? Get featured on the Stacey Thomas Show. Join Stacey for conversations on entertainment, books, and entrepreneurship. Don't miss out. Elevate your brand today. Book your interview now. Email staceythomas@gmail.com.
And we're back. So, we've talked about what you've been through. We've talked about, because of what you've been through, what you've created in your nonprofit called a Hebron. And now in the city of Petersburg, if I'm saying it correctly, you are the chair of the Democrat Party
Democratic Committee.
committee. With all that you're already doing, why do you get involved in something that could stress you?
So let me give you a little disclaimer.
Okay.
Um, as we had stated before, I used drugs in my teens and my 20s, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
that was because of abuse and trauma, right? But I didn't get the help that I needed, like therapy, until I was in my 50s. No, late 40s, early 50s, right?
Right.
And so what I was talking about to my therapist is that the life that I have now, I would not have unless somebody else helped me.
Okay.
And it has become part of my DNA to help others.
Okay.
So I don't know how to live without helping.
Okay.
I just don't. I wish I could live a life living under the radar like I tried to do before, but I knew that's not who I wanted to be. I always try to minimize myself before because I didn't want somebody to point out some things about me or talk about my past or not just talk about or just joke on me. You know how we do, or just anything that people could do to degrade you to make them feel better. I didn't want to be in front and center because everybody is not built to be front and center because with that comes criticism and
Right.
scrutiny. And so I didn't always want that. So I wish I could sit in the back, but I can't.
And they ain't gonna do it like you do it. So you need to come out front. You need to come out front.
Everybody do it their own way. I just do
Right.
it the Janell way. That's all.
Right. But see, here's the thing. God bless you with the story. Sometimes the story stays between me and God. And then sometimes, especially when Janelle has been moved to create this awesome nonprofit and now the position she holds, people are going to relate to you better. The very people that criticize you and bring up your past, trust and believe there's somebody that's going to hear about it and say, wow, I'm going through that. And they're going to be blessed because the gossiper brought your past up.
I would hope so. I
They're
would
going to,
hope
right,
that with everything that I went through, I
right,
didn't go through it in vain. I
right.
had purpose. I did it for you. You don't have to do it. I know how to get out. So let me help you. So I hope that everything that I did, all those mistakes, all those bad decisions, all those get rich quick schemes, all that, I hope that everything that I did, it has purpose. And I know it does. It has purpose with the nonprofit. It has purpose with the Petersburg Demos. Because it was so many years. I lost my right to vote in 1990. I didn't get it back until 2014.
Really?
Yeah, I had moved in 1997. I moved to a state that even if you had a felony, you could still vote. But that wasn't here in Virginia. And so when I came back to Virginia, even though I had been voting in that other state, I came back here and I was still not a citizen. So what I did is I applied to get my rights back in 2013, 20, no, might have been 2015, 2016.
So please forgive my ignorance. I thought if you could vote in one state, you could vote in all the states. I
No,
didn't know that.
no, each state is different. Each state is different.
Yes,
Some
ma'am.
states, some states like Virginia was like Virginia and Kentucky. I think it's the last two states where you don't automatically get your rights restored. You have to apply.
Wow.
Mm.
So, as for what you're doing now with the Democratic Committee, what's I've heard people say you can't fight for everything, pick one, or you become distracted and confused. Do you have just one fight, one thing that you're fighting for, or can you tell me what is it that you're doing that's making you really fight?
Well, one, I we need to have a voice to the voiceless, right? Because I was voiceless for over 20 some years.
Okay.
And this, according to the Commonwealth of Virginia, I was
Okay.
voiceless for over 20 some years. I was just a person. They expected me to pay taxes, but I couldn't have a hand in voting on what they want to do with my tax dollars
Right.
or who I wanted to represent me to say how they were going to spend my tax dollars.
Right.
I didn't have those rights. So today, I am the chair of the Petersburg Dems, and then I help those who to help them to exercise that right. Exercise your voice, express your voice through the ballot box. And what's so sad is that we sit down and take that vote for granted, and now we are struggling. I'm not saying suffering.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
struggling
Okay.
in this political climate right now because we sat down
Right.
and we can't sit. That's what they want us to do. That's what they banking on for us to sit. That's why they do it. That's why they sit up there and push all that misinformation. We get caught up in Diddy. We get caught up in Cassie and all of them. We get caught up in Jay-Z and all of them who was at the parties. But we're not looking at what they doing and passing these daggone the big beautiful bill, which ain't nothing. It's nothing. It's stripping us of everything. And you know, the only two things they're talking about is SNAP and
Medicaid.
Medicaid,
That's all.
right?
That's
But
all.
that's not all that's in there. People, so I was reading the comments, and you know, through Lent season, I got off of social media. It was one of the best decisions that I did, right?
Okay.
Because I was being overwhelmed with information.
Okay.
But I got off really because I was being inundated with misinformation and people. So, like, okay, let me break it down.
Okay.
I went to school for public information. I volunteer with the Petersburg Dems. I work for local government and I do nonprofit. All of that is in my degree, in the
Okay.
area of my degree, right?
Okay.
So I do that, right? There are people that are good at fixing cars. There are people that are good at baking cakes. There are people who are excellent at fixing roads, doing utilities, or daycare. So I cannot tell them how to change my oil. I go to them to change my oil, right?
Right.
I cannot tell them how to decorate a cake that looks like a person. I can't, right?
Right.
And I can't keep them babies quiet.
Right.
You know, I know my lane. But then I see people on social media trying to tell other people about how government runs, but that's not their specialty. That's not their lane. And then they misinform other people. And just because I like you, I say you right. When you wrong, it's two left shoes.
Right.
You know, it's not because I like you. I have a lot of friends, and anybody who knows me, if I love you, I love you. But when you're wrong,
You're
you're
wrong.
wrong. And I don't believe that no relationship should be built off a blind loyalty. No relationship. There should be a space where we could tell each other the truth and we don't have to fall out. You know, and I know that I can be, you know, that somebody try to tell me and I'll be like, hmm. But when I get home and I get quiet, I hear what they say, and I don't have a problem coming back and say, "You right, you were dead right, and I was wrong." But that's not the society that we are in, especially with our elders. You know, our elders are conditioned that is what I say and not what I
That's
do.
right.
You
That's
know,
right.
and
That's right.
and that's part of the problem that we got going on. We got an elder that's sitting in the White House. Do as I say and not as I do. And now got all these people who got blind loyalty. Blind loyalty. That is not what a relationship is built on. When you have blind loyalty, somebody in there is a puppet.
Wow.
Somebody's in there a puppet. And it ain't me.
Wow. So we have we hear the Medicaid and we hear about the SNAP benefits.
They ain't talking
Um,
about Medicare.
just Medicaid, SNAP benefits. We
Medicare.
Medicare.
See, there's a lot of people that have blind loyalty to the other party, and I don't blame them because I don't have blind loyalty to mine because I do speak up and I say,
Okay.
hey, how can we fix it on my level? You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
um, But there are people who say, well, you need to get a job. You need to be responsible. That Medicaid and that SNAP. Well, what about you have a job? You put in the Medicare, and it's time for you to collect off Medicare, and it ain't gonna be there. So what are you talking about? See, some people are so loyal to a fault. They will vote against their own self-interest. I can't do that. I can't do that. At some point, you got to exercise that muscle that's inside your cranium and say, I got to think about what's the best thing for all of us, not just me,
Not just me, but all of us.
but all of us. Because, like, if I just vote for just me, and I live on, I live pretty good, right? I don't
Right.
have to worry about how I'm gonna eat, and then I'm coming home with my groceries, and I'm not thinking about how the rest of the people around me are living. Somebody who's suffering can come knock me over side my head and steal my groceries because
Right.
they're hungry.
Right. Right. Oh,
But
it's
yet I can afford to buy mine, but they can't. So I'm not worried about them. You have to think about the collective. You got to think past your nose.
yeah. And some people can't do that. And I want to bring up something that I think people should know.
Mm,
So not only are we listening to the people that don't know what they're talking about on social media, but when we see something when it comes to politics or people running for governor, when we see people running for Congress, blah, 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 we have to do our own research. We
mhm,
have to, because not too long ago, I was a little fooled. So, a lot of us African Americans, we have a tendency when we think one of us are going to be first, when we think one of us are going to be the first one to walk through the door, do this, blah, 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 we're going to vote because for some reason we love hearing the first.
mhm.
I saw someone running for, well, I'm just going to say it. So in the state of Virginia, I saw a sister immediately, a sister that was going to run for governor. Immediately, I said, oh, wow, let me look her up. So I looked the sister up and I see that she's been this and she's been that and she's been that. And one sister to another sister, I'm proud of the sister because that's what I'm reading. And then I go to look for something else, and then I see she ain't on your team, Stacey. She's standing for the very thing that you think is wrong. I would not have known had I not done my own research. So I think it's very important when people are looking at these advertisements, everything that sound good or look good might not be good. And people better pay attention in the state of Virginia this time and look past color and do their research.
Absolutely. Now let's take this let's let's go back a little bit. Of course, like when Obama first ran, right? I wasn't initially on his team because I was looking at experience
Okay.
versus color.
Right.
But I knew that Hillary had experience. She was running the White House for 8 years behind her husband, right?
Right. Right.
Then she was a senator. Then no, then she was she ran later. She didn't get the nomination. She became the Secretary of State. Then she was a senator, right? And then she was
Mm-hmm.
also a lawyer as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
looked at all of that and said, wow, she has more experience than Obama, right?
Right.
But he had, I didn't know his story either. You
Okay.
know, I didn't know that he went to Harvard. I didn't know that he came back to Chicago and then he did grassroots organizing and that
Uh-huh.
he made a difference in his community. I did not take the time to do my research in that respect. And so I'm guilty of that. I
Right.
did not know, I knew that he was a new congressman, newly in Congress. and that, you know, I felt like that he needed to learn more. But also, I didn't give him a chance either. And what I did see is that he made every effort to try to change things.
Right.
But what this was so disheartening is that people, my people, our people, knock them, say, well, he ain't do nothing. It's not that he wasn't trying. It was that Congress blocked them. And then, so this is another thing. So they said, well, he had 2 years when Congress was Democrat. Well, what people fail to realize is that when a president sits down, unlike this year, right? When
Right.
the president sits down, what happens is that it takes 2 years for the policies that the previous Congress had passed to
Mm-hmm.
get to go through, right?
Right.
And then the new Congress people, Congressmen and women,
Okay.
they are developing relationships with them so that they can work on a bipartisan base or even within their party so that they can um, start drafting bills themselves, and then they got to whip up the votes to get it right. So it usually takes time, but
Right.
but it's never been. I don't know if it's been in my lifetime. I have to look and see when all three branches were the same,
Oh, wow.
where it is like it is today.
Wow. So if you had to say something to someone that said to you, I don't vote, it ain't gonna make no difference. I don't think I need to vote. During this time, what would you say to them?
You need to talk to Kimberly Pope Adams. 53 votes. She lost her race last 2 years ago. 53 votes. Those votes mattered.
53 votes.
Yes,
Votes.
in District 82 for the delegate.
Wow.
So when they said my vote, yes, it does.
It
It's,
does. And it's not just the White House vote that we need to come out for. We need to start it locally. And I don't think people know that.
well, they need to understand, and I try not to try to sound condescending because I know it because I've been doing it, right?
Right.
Because I want people who are not as knowledgeable about the subject to feel like that they can learn and not feel any type of way
Right.
because they are not as informed as I am. I just been doing it longer. People had to teach me, and I just don't want to feel like that I'm talking down to them. But what a lot of people don't understand is that when your city council, your delegates, and your state senators vote, those policies or those bills that they do, you feel the effect immediately. Immediately, because it usually go into effect July 1st. So they had General Assembly, the law might go into effect July 1st. Now, some have to take a little bit longer. It might be to July 1st later,
Right.
but normally it's July 1st. That's immediate. Or if it's city council, it might be the next month. But like the ones like for SNAP benefits and Medicaid, that'll be September because that's when the new budget starts. And, and then like some executive orders, like stopping some of these grants and some of these with Doge and all like that, it's been immediate. But what they did in Doge, a lot of people was fired and
Mhm.
rehired
Wow.
because they did not understand the nuances in this government because what that won't their lane.
Right. 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 I've heard it. I've read in a few cases, new people were brought in to do something.
Mm-hmm.
They had no idea what to do, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't their lane. It's been great interviewing you. It's
Thank
been
you.
great hearing your story. And for those of you that may come in the middle of it, I said in the beginning, it's amazing how what the devil means for bad, God can turn into good. One last question, because there are other people out here that are sitting back quiet, not because they don't want to say something, but because they don't want to hear the naysayers about their past.
Mm.
What do you say to them?
I say, like my friend Tiffany Jones from the Metropolitan Baptist Church, who has a single out there,
Okay.
do it and do it afraid. You know, because I was afraid to let people know about my past. Not like they didn't already. They
Right.
knew
Right.
I was messy, sloppy, you know. But I didn't want to say it out of my mouth because then it became real. You know, so what I had to take a chance. And then what happened was, as I was starting to do more things, my story became more real, more valid, because with all of that happened to me and where I'm at today, you know it won't me. It had to be something bigger than me.
Right.
You
Right.
know, for people to let me mentor their daughters. That wasn't me, that was God. For
Right.
people to say, hey, Janelle, we want you to chair. I was just going to the meetings, but because I remain consistent, I showed up at every meeting. They said that you would be committed. That's how I got my job. I went to city council, all the meetings. And if I went to city council, they knew I would show up for work. I've
Right.
been at my job for 9 years, you know. So what I'm saying, people, is that at some point in time in your life, whatever you did, it's going to be your springboard into your purpose. It is, you didn't do it just by happenstance. It didn't happen to you just by happenstance. It was purposeful. Make it purposeful.
Right. I started oh, you're touching me now. I started writing books, and then when my mother got sick with ALS disease, I said, how can I speak for this? And I have those books. And then it hit me. It was because of the books that helped me build the platform to allow me to speak. It was because of the books that I have more people following me who I can tell, if you don't fight for what I fight for something or somebody.
Mhm.
Is that what you mean, Miss Janelle?
That's right. And so, you know, I just want to say this, and I want to say this. If you lived a life like I lived, where everything, I ain't following no rules, want no rules. You know, I didn't think rules were for us because you know what? Rules were to, I felt was to oppress,
Okay.
restrict,
Okay.
and restrain.
Okay.
I felt that way, right? So everything that was, no, I ain't following it. I'm going against the grain, you know. And what I found is that every time I broke a rule, God sent correction. And it won't always the correction that I wanted. That's why I got a felony. You know what I'm saying? I seen people do what I did. You know, they scot free. You know, never got in trouble. Never did. So what I understood is that God had different rules for me. I had to follow a different path. And the path that I'm on is that we follow the rules, but there's always a loophole. We have to read. Some people don't want to read to find the loophole, right?
Right.
The thing is that people are, I have done so much dirt that I just don't want to have no problems with the law, right? I don't want to have no problems,
No
none,
problems.
no problems,
No
none
problem.
whatsoever,
Yes, ma'am.
none, no problem. So what I do is I share with our children. So like I mentor, how can I tell them not to break the rules when I'm an adult and I'm doing whatever I want to do? That's a hypocrite. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What
Right.
the church said, that's diabolical. I can't do that. I
Right.
can't. And so what I struggle with is that my peers that's my age or older, who've never been in trouble or never had any problems with the law, it's very easy for them to blur the lines, cross the lines, or kick the lines, or kick the lines just totally out the box.
But you
But,
can't.
but I can't. And then I especially can't if I'm in front of those kids because they watching.
Right. Right.
And we got to have a society where you want to break the rules, but you want to hold leadership accountable. You know what I'm saying? You can't have it both ways.
Right.
You
Right.
can't have. You can only hold somebody accountable if you towing your line, if you towing it.
Right.
And so I do that, but I also know that there's a way to do things, and I try to do it the right way. And one of the things that I know is that I align myself with other people who do it like that. And I'm so grateful for my networks, like my Sisters in Service and the 4 other nonprofits that I work with: Baby Bunch, Justin J. Hart Foundation, Women of Endurance, Pretty Purpose, my church, the Metropolitan Baptist Church. I have the church ladies posse that I have at my church is 5 of us that we hold each other accountable. And then I have also my community and people that I have in the 12-step program. You know what I'm saying? And then all of these people hold me accountable, that I have become the woman that I am today, the one that you invited on your show, the one that has founded and started a nonprofit that's been in existence for 10 years, one who's held their position as chair of the Petersburg Democratic Committee for the last 6 years. That is the woman that I've grown to be today because the people that I have in my life hold me accountable. And when I am attacked or bullied for doing the right thing, they say, hold your head up high, Janell, keep doing what you're doing. And so I can tell that to the other girls. Don't let nobody dull your shine, baby, and straighten that crown and keep doing everything you're supposed to be doing
I
right.
I love it. I love it. But I got to tell you something, Miss Janelle. I'm thankful that I'm interviewing the woman you are today. But this platform right here, 30 years ago when you were fighting to get your rights back, I would have interviewed you then and still been proud. So
Girl, I don't know. I won't ready. I won't ready for nobody camera there. I won't.
well, tell us again how we can follow you, keep up with how we can keep up with Hebron, and if we want to make a donation or do something for you. And as far as you teaching people about how important it is to vote, how do we follow you?
Okay. So for our nonprofit, Hebron VA Inc., that's the name on Facebook. That the real Hebron VA Inc. on Instagram and Hebron VA Inc. on LinkedIn. All right. You could go to our website, www.hebronvainc.org. Click the donate button. You can also find us on YouTube, Hebron VA Inc. Now, changing my hat. All right. Now I am the chair of the Petersburg Democratic Committee. You can also find us on Facebook. We are rebuilding our website, so that might be just you might not be able to access that right now.
Okay.
But please go to Facebook, Petersburg Democrats Committee, and you will see our activities. You will see our announcements and see the events that we got coming up because we got a lot going on in June. So because do have a primary, and please, the primary is June 17th.
June 17th.
Yes, but
Okay.
early voting is taking place now. It is
Okay.
the numbers are very they're not good in Petersburg, but they're not good all over the Commonwealth. But please go out and vote to practice for November because we got to make sure that our state stay blue, turn blue in
Right.
November to block whatever is coming from the federal government. So please don't get twisted. All skin folk is not kin folk, y'all. And that's
Speak,
what I'm going to
sister.
say.
Thank you. Thank you. And I am wishing you the very best. And hope to see you one day at the red light, or maybe I'll stop by.
Come
Take care.
on.
Thank
Come
you,
on in.
sweetheart.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. So you have the information. And once again, Stacey gave you the story and not a summary. Follow her. Research Hebron. Look at what she's doing for the girls in her city. She may just have some information for you for wherever you are, and you can bless some girls in your city, right? Pay attention, folks. Pay attention to what's going on. Don't be distracted. I told you before, Pastor Bronner said one Sunday, distraction can lead to destruction. And as always, don't stress too much about yesterday. Don't worry too much about tomorrow, because if we do, we just might miss living today. I'm Stacey Thomas. Thank you for watching.